Hello, it's nice to see you here again. Today we're going to talk about language learning routines for the summer, and also I'm going to share details about my personal schedule that enables me to maintain 10 languages during this time period. And also I'll be sharing more about how I maintain different categories of languages and maybe how you can adapt them on your personal learning system. I want to start this video with a reminder because I don't really want this to put a certain pressure on you that feels like people are studying 10 languages and I'm only trying to learn one, or I can't even learn one, I can't even learn three. I think this approach really doesn't make sense because I didn't arrive to this point from nowhere. Having 10 languages to maintain right now means that in the past I had summers where I was studying French. It means that I had summers where I had to maintain Italian. It means that I had to study German and Russian for a summer. So it's kind of a result of something I've built in several years. And if you have been in this only recently, or if you have language learning experience of maybe the last couple of years, I think there is nothing you should compare yourself. So this video is merely aiming to help you with organizing your journey better, sharing some insights with you. I want to start by making a comparison between last year and the situation I have right now. You probably know that last year I was trying to reach C1 and C2 in a lot of different languages, particularly in Russian and German. So right now I can say that I don't have the pressure of an upcoming language exam. I think language exams are really helpful as an objective that kind of forces you to stay consistent and improve your skills. But still, I must admit that it feels really nice not having an upcoming exam that that stresses me on a daily basis. And I think that step also drastically changed my language learning profile. I think of myself more as a person who lives in all those languages and who is not like always trying to learn something. So I'm really glad, really thankful, but also acknowledge that this is again privilege that's the result of the works I have done in the past years. So right now I would say I have two categories of languages, and I think this could also help you to classify if you are learning multiple languages. I have languages that I maintain and I have languages that I'm actively studying. If we look at the languages that I'm maintaining, we can surely see French, Italian, Spanish, and Russian. This category simply means that I'm not studying those languages in the way that we understand. Like, I don't have a Spanish textbook, I'm not revising Italian grammar. I think categorizing your languages like this kind of helps you with time management because you have low maintenance languages and you have high maintenance languages. If you're also learning multiple languages and if you have problems with time management or scheduling, I think you should also do a similar classification between languages. For example, if you have a decent level of English but also trying to learn French and German at the same time, English can be in the first category where you're only maintaining it in the background. When we look at the languages I'm actively studying, here we have German once again. I know I just told about how I passed my German C1 exam and now I had less pressure and no upcoming exam. That's still true because I'm not preparing for a C2 exam at the moment. I'm only trying to study German at C2 level and I'm doing it regularly. I'm not repeating this process for Spanish and Russian because I'm not really looking for C2 certificates in both of those languages. And to have a more structured approach while doing it, I'm using this textbook that I'm studying at least 1 hour a day. I'm studying it in a really, really detailed way because I think my current level is not really C2. I still define myself as C1, so I'm basically trying to learn everything in this. I know how it can get difficult when you're trying to maintain your knowledge at a such high language level, and that's why I want to recommend you something that I've used in the past, especially while trying to reach C1 proficiency in German. I want to talk to you about Lingoda because right now they have a summer sale for Lingoda Flex. And if you want to know more about Lingoda, it's basically a language school where you can learn 5 different languages with native level teachers and interactive classes. I personally use it only for German. And I think the materials are super enriching, and also the classes really force you to actively speak and take part. Especially as someone who was trying to reach a really high language level, the content of the Lingoda classes really helped me. And why I'm mentioning Lingoda Flex is that because it's super flexible, and I think it's more difficult in summer to maintain a certain consistency. If you really want to decide on your own when you are going to take your classes, if you want to take classes every once in a while, I think Lingoda Flex can be really suitable for you. I always share this resource with German learners because in the past it has helped me enormously to have some speaking practice as a self-learner. So if you are also in a similar journey and want to try it out, you can use this code that you see on the screen. That's going to give you a discount up to 30%, excluding the smallest class package. And the last day you can use this discount is 25th of August. So if you really want to change something this summer and learn the language at your own pace while having a lot of valuable speaking practice, I think you should check it out. I decided that I wasn't going to plan any C2 exam until I'm done with this book because, I'm in no rush. Like, I just received my C1 certificate a month ago. And when it comes to the remaining languages that I always call my side hustles, I think it's going pretty nice with them. And something I realized while planning this video is the languages that I'm studying actively are almost all Germanic languages, and the languages that I'm maintaining are almost all Latin languages. So this is a really helpful approach for me because when the languages derive from the same language family, they have a lot of common points. So if you learn something in Swedish, there's a high chance that you're going to encounter the same word in Dutch as well, like something really similar. Or if you read an Italian book, then maybe you can discover an adverb that you can use in the exact same way in Spanish. When it comes to my side hustles, currently I'm studying B2 Dutch 30 minutes a day. Obviously, I'm not learning Dutch for a serious purpose, so it's basically like a free time hobby. And I also really like observing similar patterns between different Germanic languages. Then we also have Swedish. I also have a textbook for B1, B2 Swedish that I study twice a week for around an hour. And I follow a podcast episode every week, so kind of learn the vocabulary and expressions that it includes. Other than that, I also follow a lot of social media content in Swedish to the point that I think maybe I speak better Swedish than Dutch. I think it's easier to speak Dutch, but Swedish just feels more natural to me because I see it more. Then we have Finnish. If I have to share some updates since my last video about my Finnish learning progress. A few days ago, I listened to my first ever podcast in Finnish, and I know it looks kind of scary, but for me, this is an artwork, and it took me 2 hours to make this. And I know probably in 3 months, I will be like, that's easy. But in order for things to get easier, you should have done necessary work, so. And I'm still following the A1 course. I'm not done with it. I know, I'm late. But it's going to be over really soon. So at the end, if I make the calculations on a day where I'm being regular with studying those 4 languages would take me around 3 to 4 hours. But obviously, I'm not always consistent. Some days I skip certain languages and then I compensate the study time on a following day. Or let's say if I skip studying Dutch for 2 days, then on the 3rd day, I have a full session where I can study Dutch for a longer time period, which helps me with focus because when I start doing something, I have difficulty following with another task. So sometimes I do occasional skips. But I think this isn't a big deal because, as I said, I'm not under pressure. I decide which language I'm going to study. If I was under pressure, I probably wouldn't be studying Swedish, right? I'm doing this as a hobby, so I'm not hard on myself with all the productivity stuff. So when it comes to languages, I'm maintaining this summer, and I think that's my favorite part because I think we all learn languages to use them at some point, like to read books in them, to talk with people, to travel to a country and not having to speak English with locals. In the background, you can see a part of my book collection. We have a lot of Russian classics and also some books in different languages. So it kind of gives you a hint about what I'm doing this summer. If you ask me, I think it's not that easy to entirely forget a language, but you can definitely lose your C1 or C2 because those language levels are highly detailed, specific, and professional. So in the same way, I think if you really want to maintain those levels, you should be doing sophisticated things in the languages. That's why I read really often in those 4 languages. Obviously, not only them, I also try reading in German. I also try to read multiple books simultaneously. It's not like I have to start and finish them at the same time. It's more like I have 2 to 3 books that I'm reading at any given moment because I get bored easily, so I can just switch between the books, which also means switching between the languages. But something I apply, and I think you can also steal this, sometimes I read the same book in different languages, not at the same time. For example, a few weeks ago, I listened to White Nights of Dostoevsky in French because I didn't have time to read books during that week. So now I'm reading the same book in Russian, which is its original language, but sometimes it's really difficult to read a book in its original language, so you have to kind of have a background information. That's why I sometimes read the books in a language, in a stronger language, then switch to another language to read the same thing. And also, if you have native friends or friends who have more or less the same language level as you. For instance, right now we are reading White Nights with a friend so that we can discuss it later together. So obviously I still watch TikTok or follow Instagram accounts in those languages, but I don't think those really help you to maintain C1 or C2. So reading books in foreign languages can be a really suitable activity if you want to preserve your advanced proficiency. Let's say if you're not really interested in this or you find the language in books difficult, which is fair enough, you could also try learning about different disciplines in your target language, in the language that you want to keep. For example, when it comes to Italian, I don't even give it as much time as French or Russian because I have an entire degree to study in Italian. So I could simply study for my university class instead of trying to maintain my C2 Italian. And a similar thing that I do with German is, for example, now that I'm studying about languages in my C2 textbook, I also try to make an online course about linguistics in German. There are a lot of online courses that you can take for free online, and I know a lot of you are maybe trying them in English, but they are available in other languages as well. And yet something else you can do if it sounds interesting enough. I used to follow news in French and German daily. Like I would get my morning news in French and I would get the evening news in German. I can't do this every single day because sometimes I just forget or I wake up late or I have something to do in the evening. But if you subscribe to some podcasts, some radios, I think it's also really helpful because news aren't easy language. It's not everyday language. So at the same time, you can stay informed and preserve your language proficiency. So as you can understand from all this, I don't think my schedule still looks really chill, really flexible, or like super fun. I know, but like I enjoy what I'm doing and I'm really not forced to do it. So when it comes to time management, I keep everything in an online calendar. I do it that way because I don't know about you, but my brain doesn't understand time. It's really difficult for me to start doing something and also stop doing it, like to switch to another task. So in order to keep everything planned and organized and to stay on track, I use an online calendar. You can use a lot of different softwares, and if it's not your thing, you can simply have a notebook or some reminders. When it comes to organizing my studies in a way that's going to stay comprehensible for my brain, I just create a new task. For example, as mentioned, I have to study C2 German 1 hour every day. So I create this task and I choose it as a repeated task. So every day I have this. And if I don't study C2 German, the next day is going to be 2 hours. So in order to see all the tasks and the breaks that I have, I use an online software. So I can also allocate the tasks in free time periods, or I can easily track the things that I'm not consistent on. I have even the most simple things scheduled on my calendar. Like for instance, every morning at 9 a.m. I have a repeated task that tells me to listen to French radio. So as a conclusion, every day I have a few hours of active studying and also a lot of different activities to keep the language alive in the background. And as I mentioned, I'm trying to do it at like consciously, not like I use my phone in Italian so I never forget Italian. Obviously that's something that's really helpful, but I think at really high levels you have to do extra things. You may have realized that the languages I mentioned in this video don't add to 10. So we have 2 missing languages, English and Turkish. Obviously, Turkish is my native language and I'm not actively studying Turkish or practicing Turkish. But obviously, I'm not undermining the importance of keeping one's native language at a high and eloquent level. So I really pay a lot of attention to not lose my Turkish in comparison to Italian or French, or to have that sophisticated Turkish as well. And when it comes to English, I have to take an English C2 exam. This is not something I'm actively working on, but it's basically that for my university, before graduating, I have to submit an English certificate, but that's not something I'm actively working on. I'll probably be managing that till the end of the year, so I'm basically not mentioning anything about English. I hope you enjoyed this video and leave with some ideas that can be helpful for your language learning schedule, and you can check the other videos on my channel or follow me on my social media account. See you on another video and take care.